And seeing what's going on in the world, trying to analyze what the purpose would be. It pretty much seems like war is the only reason to come to Earth. You, you come here, and then people think that they can walk all over you, and then if you do things about that, eventually you might look at that and be like, wow, I can do whatever I want, can I? Like, I can respond to that however I want. And it doesn't change, really, unless you do start, fighting back. And even then, it's not like a lot of stuff changes. It just like it's a continuation of wars. And then you might see that the world's a little fake and people are kind of like not in control of themselves, and they're just like you know directed by something else, and you're like, okay, so this is like intentional. And then you're like, yeah, well, definitely there's a purpose to being here and stuff. And then whatever that is will also like send people to act all scared too, and along with guiding you and directing you through interactions with people, pretty much hell, giving you videos on how to interact with the next person or the person you just talked to, telling you who they are and their personality. It's like, okay, so some's like can control them, some knows how they're created enough to make a ton of videos and ads and stuff and send them your way to teach you about personality traits, how these people were designed to act, things like that. And you're like, yeah, okay. So it's set up, and they're there to try to start a battle that, if you choose to, they can't win. If you choose to fight that battle back, you get shown that. You can pretty much do what you want in response to it. And then also a lot of stuff in my life I realized, like looking back now, especially after the 2020 stuff, but just like looking back at all those personalities sent my way, or a lot of them, and then the stuff that like was pushed my way to do. It's like, yeah, like hell, it's not just like offering you the choice to like go to war against people trying to stomp on you. It's been literally directing you to train for survival and battle. And I didn't like necessarily want that stuff. Like if you came to me talking about that, I didn't always want it. But like if it was like low key pushed to me, like how to do this and how to do that, I like that definitely happened, and I jumped on a lot of that as a kid. And but when I was like first taught how to fight, like physically fight, I didn't want nothing to do with that really. I mean, fighting is kind of weak compared to other things. People always point that out too. It's like, well, there's no bullets and bombs left. And so if you can't go to the store and buy chemicals to make things, then really like fighting is what's left. And I'm kind of assuming that like that would be the purpose for me to be taught how to fight, when I like necessarily didn't want that. And so I'm assuming kind of like that's gonna be how things ended up, where there's I mean they always say there's like a bullet shortage and all this, but I mean they really are just dumping their hardware into other nations, which are just wasting it. But they're always saying there's a shortage, so who knows if there really is a shortage of armament for the people in control. But I see these patterns over and over, and obviously, like, the patterns are there for a reason, like trying to figure out, like, what can be shifted and what can't be. Like 2020 was like quite a weird, quite a huge shift in the world. But like following up with seeing that, I was like testing, like, oh, okay, so if like all 14 million people are just like there for sandbox time, then we can do whatever we want, anything, right? So, I asked for a lot of stuff. I don't see dinosaurs yet, like T-Rexes, and so there must be some sort of limits here, because you can ask for things like people to get free money and wear masks, but you can't have T-Rexes. I mean, they probably never existed in the first place, if that's the case. Masks obviously exist, so that's like something you apparently can just ask for or say happens. And then adding that up, it's like, huh. Like if I can't avoid it, if I still have to be like involved in it, like everything, even just like avoiding people reminds me, like, oh, this has been a war, hasn't it? Because it's like, oh, why do I do what I do these days? Because you are blocked from things like presidential runs and playing music in your life. Like humans literally decided, no, you don't need to do that. What you need is war against us. And it's like, I guess that's like a forced thing. I mean, you play most video games, and you don't. I mean, you do. I've done that, and the game's all boring and stupid, and you turn it off. I played games where you just sit around and talk to people and stuff like that, and raise your charisma and all that crap. But you're really like, you're still like in the first town, because the whole point's to go like fight a dragon at the end of the game. So you gotta go out, you gotta go level up your fight skills and stuff, and that like is pretty much like what I think I'm seeing here. Is it's like a laid out plot line. It's called a rail-based game when you don't have options. Whereas, some of these people would convince you that the thought itself is the creation. Whereas there's definitely times where, I don't know, I don't really remember what I was thinking around some of those other times, but it definitely feels more like you've been pressured into war. Like, okay, so the people are all possessed and stuff. And then so the game decides to send some non-player characters to incite war. And it's like, what do? You just choose to give up life. They're like, oh, can you stop doing anything? Can you stop doing everything? I'm over here because Allah said so. It said it's time for you to do nothing. And it's like, oh, so that's part of the war too. Is there's evil people worshiping evil gods and stuff like that, and they're not. These people never appear. These gods never appear, and yet, like, the world's like pretty much catering to you, and it's like, oh. So that must be part of the plot line too there, that the war involves, cults and stuff like that. Then just like in most games, like the dragon cult and stuff, you're after the dragons.